When was the last time you took a leap of faith, trusting that everything is going to work out? Do you crave growth, or are you merely content with the status quo? If you want more out of your life, out of your career, and out of your relationships, you are in the right place. Take the leap and discover how to create a life by design rather than living it by default. Real success starts with you. Now here's your host, Colleen Biggs.
Well, hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Take the Leap. I am your host, Colleen Biggs, and we are really getting up there. You know, my previous podcast that I ran called Lead Up for Women, Speak Up to Lead Up, we were at about 175 episodes. And then we restarted Take the Leap with Colleen Biggs, and now we're already up to episode number 95. We move quick. In less than a year. Really excited about all of the listeners, very excited about just the guests that we have on our show on a regular basis, at the level of the guests. And every week they're here to give you knowledge, give you some nuggets so you can continue building not only your personal life, but your success in your career and your business as well. You know, Take the Leap really stands for you getting out there and doing something that might be really uncomfortable for you. And so why we bring these experts on is so that you can get a little bit more comfortable in moving in the direction of taking the leaps that we really need to take. And my guest today doesn't know this, but we're definitely going to dive into her taking the leap and starting her own tax firm. This has been something big that she has just done recently. And I'll tell you, she is so young, and it is just so inspiring to watch her follow her dreams at such a young age. Because if you're my age, which is about double Becca's age, who's going to be on the show today, then you know if you could have gone back, you would have made a few decisions differently earlier in time. Someone asked me the other day, if I went back to you when you were 18 and you had the wisdom and you had the money that you had today, what would you do different? I said, I would buy up as much real estate that I could possibly buy. Every second, I would just buy more real estate and figure out how to buy more real estate and figure out how to buy more real estate, because I'm so late in life buying real estate. And that's just something I would have done back when I was 18 or 20. So if you're young and you're listening, go buy real estate. It's going to be an area that is really going to serve you well in the end, even if you just hold on to those properties. So today we're going to dive into how do you keep more of what you earn? So many of us, you know, if you earn, let's say $5 an hour, you're really only keeping maybe $1 of that in the end with taxes and, annual taxes and taxes on food and state taxes, local taxes. I could go on and on and on. And that's why I'm really excited to talk to Rebecca Maines today on episode number 95. But before we get to Rebecca, I would love to thank our sponsor for today's show, Phoenix Drone Pros. Thank you so much, Phoenix Drone Pros, for being our sponsor on today's show. We're very excited to be able to promote you. And we know that you're here in the Phoenix, Arizona area. And for some reason, all of my accounts were just signed out of. So I can't sign into my account to be able to read all about Phoenix Drone Pros. But I can tell you that they not only do construction, events, and real estate, in commercial real estate. You can find them and book them and learn how to fly a drone and so many other things at phoenixdronepros.com. So be sure to reach out to them, and our description is there at your fingertips here at the podcast, as well as on our Facebook page. You can go check that out as well. So let's get to our guest today. Rebecca is an enrolled agent. She's an international Business Mastermind Speaker. I was present for that. And owner of Artea Tax Group. She believes that there's always a place to save money. With over 5 years in the financial industry, she's worked closely with small businesses to utilize advanced tax strategies to minimize her clients' tax liability. She understands how stressful taxes can be for the business owner and aims to provide the knowledge for them to make good financial moves in their businesses. She continues her education year after year with the IRS and the American Institute of Certified Tax Planners to deliver the most up-to-date information all year. Rebecca Maines, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I'm going to share my story. I met Rebecca last October. We were both invited to a business mastermind in Puerto Vallarta, but Rebecca wasn't actually supposed to be there. And her boss at the time was the one who enrolled to come to this business mastermind and to speak at this business mastermind. And at the last minute, Rebecca was asked to fill the spot. And she just said yes. She had never really traveled abroad on her own. And here she was. All of us were already at the house. It was late in the first day. And she comes, walking in with her suitcase into a group of women that she doesn't know, one person in the room. So I think that's very brave, Rebecca. You're in your early 20s. That is extremely brave. I mean, most women I know in their 30s, 40s, and 50s wouldn't even do that. So tell us what happened kind of in those events.
So my prior boss, she had sold her firm. So we were in process. She was in process of getting all that done. And at where the retreat had fallen, it just didn't make sense for her to go anymore. And she's like, well, hey, do you want to go? And I was like, let me see if I can find my passport first. So I hopped on a plane. That's
an important piece for traveling.
Yes.
For sure.
I hopped on a plane. I was added to this group chat with 7 or 8 women that I only knew 2 of them, the hosts. Mm-hmm. And was just like, you're gonna do this and this, you're gonna meet this person, you're gonna show up to this house. It was really awkward though, because I showed up to the house and the door was locked and I didn't know how to get in. So I was just kind of like nervously knocking. But as soon as I walked in and I saw everybody's faces, I knew that I was in the right place because, the welcoming energy and it was amazing to get to experience all of that.
Yeah. I didn't realize how young you were at first when I met you. And I think a lot of us were in the pool and we were just kind of chilling out because it was later in the day and we had already been, some of us had already been there for a day or two before that and had just arrived at the house. So during this mastermind, Rebecca had the opportunity to do a presentation and teach us. And of course, it didn't go exactly as planned. She was supposed to do it on a break. And then we were all supposed to have like this time for the workshop and the presentation. And then somehow it didn't happen. And then it wound up that while the chefs were preparing dinner and delivering dinner, that's when Becca had to, stand up and deliver everything that she wanted to deliver for her, workshop in that hour. So we're all eating. Her food's just sitting there getting cold. She's not eating at all. And she's delivering this workshop. By the way, it was absolutely phenomenal. This was a workshop for women who own their own businesses. So the goal in that workshop was what? What was your main goal and what you were teaching there?
Just to teach entrepreneurs about some of the biggest tax deductions that are out there that are available that most people just don't know about. Mm-hmm. So we had a couple of easy tax deductions, and then we had a couple of what's called income shifting. Mm-hmm. So with like the capital gains piece of that, we got to be able to plan certain things so that we can still get the money that we're looking for and earn the money that we want, but, not necessarily pay a bunch of tax on it because, why, if you're going to sell a home for $1 million, why would you pay tax on $1 million? Let's plan to make that not happen. Mm-hmm. So that was really the goal of the whole thing. And a lot of the women that were there too were either just starting out or they had a business idea that they were wanting to get off the ground. So I felt like it was really great to help them like understand, like, it's okay. Once you get into business and once you get going and the ball's rolling, you're going to be okay. You're not going to owe a bunch of money. We're going to figure it out together.
Yeah. And you're very educated and knowledgeable in that area. And I will tell you, in my experience in working with so many CEOs of companies and founders and women entrepreneurs, especially in the last 5 years, most of them have zero clue on what is required for them when they start a business. They think, oh, I can just start selling my services to people. And I'm even surprised how many women I still meet today that say, I know I need to get business insurance and I still haven't. And I think to myself, if you're selling any product, and something goes wrong, you're screwed, right? You're going to get sued for something. Same thing with giving a service of advice, right? So I run a lot of events and I give a lot of advice. So I have to have insurance that protects me so someone can't come back and say, you gave me this advice and then, it didn't work out for me or whatever it may be. Or with all the events that I run, if someone were to get injured at an event, you have to have insurance for that. It's no different than the mobile pizzeria company that we own. And in that mobile pizzeria company, if someone were to walk by the trailer and trip over a tire or something like that and get hurt at an event that we're at, we're liable for that.
Right.
So we have to have insurance for that, right? If we were to run over someone with the trailer, I don't know. We're liable if someone breaks a toe or whatever it might be. So these things are super important. And many entrepreneurs, they don't want to pay the fees. But let's talk about fees, because the IRS, the government, says you're required to file your taxes every single year. You're required. And isn't yesterday tax day or something? I don't even know.
Yes, yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday was tax day. We always file an extension. My husband and I do every year. And then we file our taxes usually in September. So that's when we always file our because our business, we file all of our business taxes then. And so many women have the opportunity to have expenses in their businesses. My insurance is an expense in my business for running my business. So, my computers, my applications that I use to do this podcast, these headphones, this microphone, all of these are expenses. So what are some of those expenses that help women business owners, or even males, or even someone who may have a career and works, on a W-2? Let's start with the entrepreneur, because that's really the biggest demographic we have. There's so many opportunities. And as a tax pro and as an enrolled agent, you have kind of the upper knowledge of that. And a lot of the entrepreneurs that are out there today don't know. They really don't know what they can and can't write off.
Right. Oh man, there's so many. It's hard to pick one. I would say the biggest one is business travel. So that trip that we took down in Puerto Vallarta last October, 100% deductible in your business. So from the plane ticket, the ticket to the event, and any costs directly associated. Now, don't go spending $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 and not telling your bookkeeper what it's for, because they will look at that and say, you went to Mexico? That's not an expense. So you want to make sure and this ties into receipts too. So you want to make sure that you're keeping your receipts. Like, hey, I'm going to Mexico and I'm going for this business retreat and we're going to be taking all these workshops. And then, from there,
Yeah, let's talk about receipts. Do you mind diving into that? Because
Yeah.
I electronically keep receipts. So I snap them and I upload them directly in QuickBooks. There's a lot of other apps out there that you can snap receipts and upload them electronically. But then I also keep the paper. Now, they fade. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I've kept receipts for years and years and years. And eventually it will fade and the receipt will just be a piece of paper with nothing written on it. But if you've electronically saved them, now you have a record of them. So what is your recommendation for that?
Electronic, 125%, because like you said, the receipt paper will fade over time. And I have heard horror stories from other tax pros where, their clients are usually really good. They keep the receipts. It's all in a nice filing cabinet. And when that client gets audited, the IRS is going to come in. They're going to look through your books. They're going to see an expense, right? $9,000 to Puerto Vallarta. And they're going to say, where's the receipt for this? And if you can't produce it, they immediately disallow it.
Yeah.
So the long-term effect of that, so say, you have 500,000 in gross income and you have 300,000 in expenses. If any of those expenses get disallowed, you have to pay tax on that money now.
Yeah. So let's say 100,000 of that you can't show in receipts that were expenses, but they really were expenses. Your responsibility is to prove that. So I don't know. Do you have any shortcuts for, you could snap a receipt and, use Google Drive or Google Photos to upload. The thing is, you have to remember at any point you stop paying for your Google storage or your Apple storage or the cloud or whatever it is, then it goes away. So whether it's OneDrive, I don't care what it is, keep them electronically so that you have them somewhere, because it's so important that if you were to get audited, that you have all of this. And so generally, there are a lot of red flags out there on things you should or shouldn't do. It's kind of like in the tax world, wouldn't you call it like driving 95 and a 55 with some of the write-offs that people have?
Or
you might get caught. You might get a speeding ticket. Maybe there's no cop around and you wouldn't get a speeding ticket. But that's kind of how it is, I think, with taxes, right?
Yeah. And I find that most clients are like, well, I just want to pay the least amount possible, which is fine. There's certain things that I won't go to bat for. So, it has to make sense and it has to be, they call expenses, you want them to be ordinary and necessary. So as a coach, Colleen, what type of expenses are ordinary for you off of equipment?
Yeah, I would say some of the most ordinary expenses that I write off every single month are VA services for my business. So any virtual assistant services that I use, insurance. So I have umbrella insurance. I have business insurance. I have applications like QuickBooks that I use every month in my business. I use a CRM system that I write off every month because that's solely for my business. My website, SEO, any updates, so if I'm paying someone to do those, these are regular business expenses that I have every single month. If I, every quarter I get together with my clients and I rent a hotel room, a boardroom where I bring them all together. And so my stay at the hotel, the boardroom, any food that I buy that comes in as snacks, any supplies I need for that time when I'm training my clients, those are all write-offs. This is running a business. So I love for women to think about it as, because some of them are small, like I am, and I have maybe, a couple employees and then a few contractors, let's say, that work for me. So that's a small business. I'm not running a conglomerate where I've got 28 employees and I'm in a brick and mortar. So most people forget if you're working at a job and it's a business and there's a CEO and a CFO and a COO and, all of these 28 employees, do you think that the CEO of the business, let's say he owns the business or she owns the business, do you think that person is pulling money out of their personal checking account and paying for the lunch that came in that day, for the staff? Or that they're paying, out of their personal checking account, the rent for the month, right? At the building, they're not. So we have to think about that. Some things I think women don't think about, or men don't think about, entrepreneurs, on how we can keep more of what we earn. You operate, most of us listening probably operate our businesses out of our house. And we don't have a brick and mortar. Okay. So I went to my tax consultant and I said, what does that mean for us? We have 2 rooms in our entire house that we take up for our purposes of running our businesses. So the internet that we have at our house is solely written off for the business, because that's the only reason why we have it, is to run our businesses. And we have to have like the fastest speed possible for downloads and uploads and streaming and things like this. But there's amortizations that you can use, and you can write off for space in your house. I have a cleaner that comes in that cleans all of our spaces. So, if you were in a brick and mortar, it'd be exactly the same thing. You're not going to pay and send your house cleaner in to go in and clean your building, your commercial building. It's going to be a cost for the business. So, I could even go even further, and I could write off some of the supplies I have in my kitchen as my quote unquote break room. That is completely legit. It's not like you're siphoning money or cheating. It is legit. If you get up and you have a cup of coffee every time you walk into a brick and mortar store, or a job, and you're drinking coffee and there's coffee mugs, and, you go to your office and you sit down and you have a desk, that desk was paid for through the business. That coffee's paid for through the business. Those paper towels that are sitting in the break room are paid for. The coffee filters are paid for, all through the business. So these are legit write-offs. And I don't think that a lot of individuals think about that.
Right. So the home office is a really powerful one, especially if you own your home, because then you can attribute some of your mortgage interest that you pay out of your personal checking account to your business. So, say 50% of your house is used exclusively for business. Now, something I want to go into before I go too far, a home office does have to be used exclusively for business. So, in my home, sometimes I'll sit on the couch. Sometimes I'll sit in the kitchen. Sometimes I'll be cooking dinner and working on my business, or I'll be sitting in bed late at night because I don't want to sit anywhere else. So I don't necessarily have a home office. But someone like you, you have designated rooms with signage, and that's the only reason that you use that room. It's not
That's
just
the only
room.
reason. I do not walk into this room. There's no bed in here. There's only furniture. And I actually have furniture. So if my VA comes over that are local, can sit here. If I have a client that comes over, we can sit on the couch in the chair. So my whole entire office is set up as an office. Everything in it. Yeah. And it's only designated for an office, nothing else. Storage in the closet is all office work and, signs and, business cards and postcards and office supplies. Yeah, for sure.
So then with that being said, it has to be used exclusively for business. So say, Colleen, your home is 50% exclusively business and 50% exclusively personal, the kitchen, your bedroom, the bathroom, whatever.
Yep.
So now say, using random numbers, say you pay $10,000 in mortgage interest on your mortgage this year. Because you use 50% of your home exclusively for business, now you have just generated a $5,000 expense without actually paying for it out of your business account.
Yeah.
So it can be really useful and really powerful when you know what to look for, or if you have a tax pro that knows what to look for to generate a lower tax liability using things like that, so that you're not paying a $20,000 tax bill, so that you can keep the capital in your business account, because that's the most important piece here.
Keeping more of what you earn.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a surprise to anyone that, you have to pay taxes, whether you're independent, as a solopreneur like I am, whether you're an LLC or an S Corp or a sole proprietor, however that's set up, that's another important factor that we need to talk about, because
Yes.
there's so many individuals that don't set their entities up correctly. So both my husband and I were set up as LLCs, and now we've become S Corps within that LLC. That requires a certain amount of money that you make per year. We are our own W-2 employees. We generate 2 paychecks a month to ourselves. That's how our business is set up. So there are a lot of tax strategies that come with that, a lot of benefits that come with that. And then there's always consequences if you don't follow the rule of being an S Corp, right?
Yep.
So there are a lot of that as well. So do you want to talk at all to, that has a lot to do with keeping more of what you earn too?
Yes. So tax structure or entity structure, generally you start out, you're going to be a sole proprietor. So there are 2 ways to do that. That's really going to be for anybody who will have income and expenses, and that once that bottom line after expense is under like 75,000. So if your net profit is under 75,000, you are right where you should be. And that's 75,000 to 95,000. That's going to be your range where you need to really think about, okay, is this serving me in the best way possible? I actually recently just got off the phone with a client a couple days ago. They were taxed as an S Corp, or they elected to be taxed as an S Corp, and they are shutting down that business and opening up a new LLC. And I was like, why? What are you doing? Because now, after some quick projections, going from owing about 15,000, they may be looking at owing like 60,000 because of their income level. So there's a lot of different ways to move it. And there's a lot of different things that, an S Corp versus an LLC, because S Corp is the most popular that I usually get asked about. A lot of different things that differentiate these 2 that save you in tax. The first thing being S corporations, they flow through to your personal tax return, right? So you pay tax on it on your personal level, but you are not subject to self-employment tax because you have a paycheck. So it balances out. You're still technically paying it, just in a different manner, so that it's not a big lump sum at the end of the year. That's right?
Yeah.
So that's, what people have a hard time understanding, I would say.
Yeah.
The difference in that, because now instead of paying it to the IRS in one lump sum for 60 grand, you're paying your self-employment, you're paying your federal income tax. That's not an expense to your business. Move it to an S Corp, your paycheck is an expense to your business. So, but again, you want to make sure that it's actually saving you money in the long run. That's why I say 75 to 95,000. That's going to be your sweet spot, because at that point, the money that you're saving will greatly outweigh the money that you spend to get it done.
Yeah. I'm just going to share with everyone right now. Here's the most important piece that you need to remember. As an entrepreneur, you did not get into business unless you are a tax strategist like Rebecca is. You did not get into this business to understand loopholes with the IRS, tax strategies, to be an expert in write-offs. That is not what you do, and is not how you need to waste your energy, because it's not how you earn your money. Right. So remembering that how you earn your money is through the products and services that you offer, you need to have an expert tax strategist in your corner. I still have clients, it drives me crazy, and they do their own taxes through TurboTax. And I'm like, how could you possibly even understand? Well, because TurboTax asks me all of the right questions. I'm like, no, it's governed by the government that's telling you what you need to be putting in, and that's not strategy. So what would you say to that?
TurboTax is great if you are 19, 20, 21 years old with just a W-2 income and nothing else. Absolutely
That's
nothing
right.
else.
We helped two of our grandkids this year do their taxes, 19 and 20 for the first time through TurboTax, period.
If you come to me with just a W-2, I will tell you, like, I'm going to charge you X amount to do this because that's my minimum fee. TurboTax will do just fine. I promise, because I cannot say that I will get any different of a result.
Sure.
But for somebody who's an entrepreneur who has, multiple income streams, TurboTax isn't going to know to ask about all of that. So, this is a funny story. I had a client who had two businesses. One was a sole proprietor and one was an S corp. And they came in one year and they were like, "Oh, we got this refund last year and whatever." And we were like, "Okay, great. Can we see that tax return? We need it for this year." And they were like, "Yeah, sure." So they brought it in. It was done on TurboTax. And the same business was listed 3 separate times on 3 separate tax forms that they shouldn't have been listed on. And I was like, "Okay, this is incorrect and we need to amend it because it's not correct." And they're like, "Well, we don't want to do that." And I'm like, ethically, I can't go forward unless we fix this, because the IRS is going to see the year before that as correct. It's going to see this year as correct and then figure out which one is the anomaly, the one in the middle. So
that's right. Yeah.
There's just,
it'll catch up to you eventually. And here's the thing. They're not going to catch it like the second you file, because there's millions of them coming in. They're going to catch it like 4 years from now. And then the penalties on 4 years, that's a lot of penalty, because the IRS has owed me money and didn't realize. And then, 4 years down the road, they're like, "Oh, by the way, we owe you for 2019. And here's your $240 with, $27 in interest or whatever,
right. Yeah.
Give it back to you." But I'll tell you that it takes years. And so when someone's auditing you, you're like, "What was I even doing in 2019? What was I even doing in 2016? Like, that was the first year I opened my business. I don't even remember what I spent or what it looked like." So 1,000% right now, the biggest nugget out of this is, if you want to keep more of what you earn and you own a business, stop using TurboTax. You need someone like Rebecca who can go through. She said, every time she gets a client, she'll go through and look at previous tax returns that they've done. And almost every single one of them have mistakes and things that need to be amended. And they didn't write off everything they could have written off. And they owed more than they should have paid. And they could have gotten more money back. They could have owed less. So it's not that you're looking for or finding the tax strategist that's going to travel 95 and a 65. That's not what we're saying. But you have benefits and freedoms in the United States as a small business owner that you can take advantage of. And if you don't know what those tax strategies are, you're paying money to the government that you shouldn't have paid, because that was your money you earned and that was your money to keep, and you paid it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm actually going to school this June to like a workshop and getting my certified tax coach designation. So I can still help with it now, but I will have even more strategies under my belt at the beginning of June here, so that I can help everybody. Because, something that people don't think about as a small business owner, "Oh, I can't do health insurance. I can't pay for it." Yes, you can. I know you can. You can.
I could not imagine not having health coverage for my husband and I. And I'll tell you, we don't ever go to the doctor, but the type of health coverage that we have allows us to like go back and forth with them through apps. And, we get write-offs to go to the chiropractor and all of these things that, add up. So we pay every single month, because it's that one accident that you have that will bankrupt you completely.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
health insurance. Oh my gosh, there was another one that totally just split my brain. Health insurance was a really big one.
Business
If I
insurance is
remember
a
it.
huge one.
Yes, business
Yeah.
insurance, of course.
Now, I know you have a workshop that you have coming up. And since we're live on Facebook, those that are watching or listening to this on the podcast won't hear it for a couple of months. But I have a feeling that, obviously with this link that you have, you'll be doing these workshops more often and they can connect with you to find out when you're going to be doing the next workshop. But tell us what the workshop is about.
So my workshop is called Tax Tricks. It's going to be sort of a series. The first one being this Friday at 1:00 Pacific time. We are going to go over some of the biggest questions that I find business owners asking me. Bookkeeping. Do I really need a bookkeeper? Yes. Business travel. Can I do it? Absolutely. Can you do it and still enjoy your trip almost as a vacation? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Receipts, we'll go more in depth on receipts and, why it's important and the different ways that you can keep track of them. Entity structures, more in depth on that. And is it really serving you?
Yeah. And if you haven't added into your workshop, Rebecca, I would highly recommend that you add in the home office, because I know even my own clients, their husbands and them work full-time from home. And so they're occupying spaces that are offices.
Right.
And they don't know that. TurboTax doesn't tell you that. Sorry.
No. So we will go over home office. We will go over retirement. That was the other thing I was thinking about earlier, was retirement. People don't feel like they can do retirement as a small business owner, but you can. There's just different ways to go about it.
Yeah.
And home office, retirement, and 1099. Did you know you have a requirement to file them if you pay a contractor? And we'll talk about what that looks like.
Yeah.
And the biggest question I have for business owners to get them interested really is, who do you go see when you get really sick? A doctor. Who, let's see, who do you go to if you need a divorce? If you need an estate, if you have a civil suit, you go to a lawyer, right? So it just makes sense to find somebody with a license specific in the field.
Yeah.
Who do you go to get your taxes done? TurboTax? No, not if you're a small business owner. Absolutely not. Please.
Yeah, I am just, whenever I hear of anyone who is a small business owner and they say they use TurboTax, I'm like, listen, I file my taxes every year and I work with a CPA, and it costs, he's been our tax strategist now for several years. And it costs us, I don't know, $600 a piece between our, each one of our businesses. I've even paid upwards of $1,700, to have taxes done. And it's so worth it, because that's a write-off too, by the way. But it's so worth it, because I know that they have done the max job that they can do to get me exactly what I need and all my write-offs and everything that I need. And I never for 1 second have to worry about wondering, did I benefit this year on, and do I feel like they left money on the table, right? Their responsibility, and I've made it very clear in working with them, your responsibility is to get me the maximum amount, of my money that I earned that I get to keep. That's all I want. I'm paying you to do that.
Yep. Yeah. And any money that you pay to, people like myself is 100% deductible in that year. So, and another thing that I would say is, don't be scared either of fees, because I would say what I found in working with people and working with other CPAs and working with clients, it's really more important to get to know that person and whether or not it's a good fit for you on that level, rather than say, oh, it's too expensive, or, oh, it's too cheap, or whatever, because you just, you can't base everything off of price. And I just had a conversation with my client, and she's like, I would pay you any amount of money that you asked because I know that you're going to be there for me. And I was like, it's not about the money, it's about me taking care of you because that's what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
And I would just keep that in mind, especially with all this employee retention credit stuff going around. Just make sure that you take the time to meet and know that it's the right fit for you.
Yeah. So anyone that's watching this live, we'll put the link in for you to attend her workshop. But if you're not watching this live, you can go to arteataxgroup.com. You can follow them at Artea Tax Group LLC on Facebook or Instagram at Artea Tax Group, and that's ARTEA Tax Group. So be sure to hop on any of those social media channels, go to the website, and you'll be able to find out more about when the next workshop is coming out. And I'll be sure to send this information as well, Rebecca, to all of my clients, and make sure that they, pop in on Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, because they need the education and the knowledge. If you're a small business owner and you're listening to this, pop in for the knowledge and the education, because that's really what you need it for, to really understand, am I making the right choices? Is there more that I'm missing? Do I have the right tax consultant? You have to find the right tax consultant for you, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And a last bit on that workshop too is we're going to be doing a 30-minute Q&A at the end. So we're going to have an hour of content, 30-minute Q&A. So please, bring your questions. If, you got your tax return back and you owed and you're like, what the heck? Like, I don't understand what happened. Please bring those questions. I can answer them on a surface level without deep diving into it in front of, a room full of people.
Yeah.
But, we can absolutely talk about it and get some Q&A in for that.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you, Becca, for being on today's show. I hope all of you learned a little bit more about how to keep more of what you earn. Again, this is not doing things that are wrong or not within the law or cheating. This is about you understanding how to run your business, like a real business, because that's how you're portraying it to the IRS when you're filing your taxes. So you have all of these available tax write-offs to take advantage of as a small owner. And I'm sure there's so much more even out there that I don't know of, that I would have to talk to my tax consultant to say, so what does all this mean? Because when they show me my taxes after they've done them, I still don't really understand what everything on there is. But that's not for me to understand. It's for me to trust and know I'm with the right person that's doing the right thing for me. And, if we ever feel like we're not in a position where we trust that person, then my husband and I would certainly move and, be with a different person if needed. So, and with that, I just want to remind all of you, you're the only you that's ever been. You're the only you that's ever going to be. So it is nobody else's responsibility but your own to make sure that you're keeping more of what you earn, period. It's your business. You've got to run it like a real business because the IRS is seeing it. It's visible as a real business. So you need to run it that way. Well, Becca, thank you so much for being on today's show. Wealth of knowledge in the tax area and what it's like to run a business. And you're either going to be cashing out to the IRS and giving them all your hard work earned money that you spent hours networking for, or you're going to get smart and you're going to pay an expert to be able to assist you in your tax strategies, like someone like Rebecca Maines and the Artea Tax Group. So thank you again for being here today, Rebecca. And until next time, for all of you, be you and be strong. We'll see you then. Bye-bye for now.
We hope you enjoyed our show today, as our guests shared their secrets on designing their life by taking the necessary leaps to expand their influence and attract the right people and clients into their lives. To start these easy steps for yourself, be sure to visit www.colleenbiggs.net/freebies to download the 7 ways to increase your exposure today.